Hello everyone and welcome to the Property Podcast. I'm Rob B, of course with Rob D. And this week we have an election special.
Yeah, who would have thought it? Another political upset. We didn't think that we were going to be saying much about the election this time around. We had a different episode lined up for this week, but seeing as things didn't go entirely as expected, and there are going to be a lot of people wondering what does this mean for property, we thought we'd better chip in.
Yeah, it's going to be a quick episode this week, but we're going to get straight to it. We're not going to mess around. We're going to get into the points, into the things that matter, and most importantly, what does this mean for you as a property investor? All this uncertainty, all these things that have played out over the last few weeks. As a property investor, is it going to help? Is it going to hinder? We'll get to the bottom of it in the next 20 minutes.
Okay, well, let's start at looking back and summarising what happened. You'll know what happened. There is a hung parliament. The Tories were meant to get a stonking majority, and they ended up being a minority government, holding power just about with the DUP at the moment. So we were meant to be recording this episode the day after the election, but seeing as nobody knew what was going on, we've waited until the Monday morning. But it could have all changed since then. But as we're recording, the Tories are in power and Theresa May is the Prime Minister. A lot of ministers lost their seats as part of the election, including the Housing Minister, Rob.
Yes, so poor old Gavin Barwell, the Housing Minister, he lost his seat. So as it stands, as we record this, we don't have a Housing Minister. But I wouldn't worry too much because they didn't have much power and it wasn't an important enough office position for the government to place somebody in by the Monday. So we've lost Gavin, which is a little bit ironic actually. There's a little footnote on that. He actually wrote a book on how to win marginal seats after his last win, and he lost his marginal seat. So I don't think his book sales are going to be going too strong, Rob, after this. But Rob, don't feel too sorry for him, and listeners, don't feel too sorry for him because he already does have a new job given to him by the government.
Well, I can sleep a bit easier knowing that. So what else can we take from this? Well, really, the big theme, apart from Labour doing better than expected, is a return to two-party politics. UKIP were practically wiped out, and the SNP did far less well than before. Implications of that we'll talk about in a minute. And also, as a result of the uncertainty and everything else, the pound is weaker than it was, and it wasn't that strong in the first place. So that's what happened, but what does it all mean?
Well, good question. Well, the one thing we can be certain about in these times of uncertainty is that less will be done. There won't be any wide-ranging policies announced over the coming months in general, but also in property. The government is in a weaker position than it was, and that's only going to continue unless they hold a new election. And if they hold a new election, well then policies still aren't going to happen. So as property investors, generally when new policies have come about, it's not been good news. So we could see this as a good thing. But that uncertainty, Rob, brings other things because Brexit now, the direction we take with that, it's almost certainly going to still happen. But as hard and as harsh Brexit that was being talked about before, possibly not. Lots of talk of a softer Brexit now.
Yeah, well, basically nobody really knows, do they? But the real thing that would hold back business and would hold back potentially developments in the housing sector is just not knowing what's happening. So even if you get a result and it's not the result you would have wanted, at least you know what's going on, you know what the path forward looks like, you can adjust accordingly and crack on. But now it seems like any certainty over what exactly it's going to look like is being pushed even further into the future. So the uncertainty and the argument over what we should be trying to do goes on. And that's just the argument about what we should try to do. Whether you actually be able to do it is another thing entirely. So the uncertainty around Brexit will probably drag on for longer, but perhaps a bit more certainty, Rob, in Scotland.
Yes, because of the SNP being weaker than they were, a clear message has been sent by the Scottish people that they're kind of fed up of voting, and who can blame them? They've had enough to vote about recently. So the chance of a second referendum anytime soon, especially with everything that's going on, seems very remote right now. And the Tories did very well in Scotland, who positioned themselves as the party that's against the second referendum. So that message has been sent. So in terms of a stability point of view, whether you believe it should or shouldn't happen, from a stability point of view, that's a good thing, at least for the next few years. But all this general uncertainty, because most of it is uncertainty, and we seem to be using that word a lot, really strengthens the chance of a minor recession and highlights how well the 18-year property cycle is playing out. That mid-cycle wobble, which should be just starting, seems to be scarily accurate at the moment, because it seems very much we're in that mid-cycle wobble, which we know afterwards, well, we know during that period, there's lots of opportunity, and afterwards the fun times begin, if that's what you want to call it. But it seems to be, as I said, almost scary how accurate that seems to be playing out.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I was talking to someone about it the other day, and talking about how the temptation of sort of saying, oh, well, so much has changed, it's so different this time. But yet again, despite everything that changes between cycles, and 18 years is a long time at the speed of things are developing, it still seems to be the case that it works. And don't be too tied to the 18 years, but at the moment, it seems like we're almost bang on track. So uncertainty in general, possibility, perhaps a heightened possibility of a minor recession and a dip in property terms. But property in general is moving down the governmental pecking order. They've got plenty to keep themselves occupied. It doesn't seem like they're going to come out with any major property policies because they've got other things to worry about. And even if things change in terms of the shape of the government, because like I said, we're recording this on the Monday morning. By the time you're listening to this, maybe we'll have a different prime minister. Maybe we'll have different parties in power. Who really knows? But whatever does happen, it seems unlikely there'll be any major changes from a property investor's point of view, because on all the big issues, all the parties are aligned anyway. So all the parties want to get rid of letting fees, for example. There's nobody sort of running on a platform of let's be nicer to landlords tax-wise. Surprisingly, that's not a big vote winner. So whatever happens with the complexion of the government, I think we can see things carrying on pretty much as they are. No big reversals, no big announcements. And like you said right back at the beginning, Rob, if nothing else changes, maybe we're not that keen on what's already been done, but hey, at least nothing else is going to happen.
Exactly. So what should you do? Well, as we said, not much has changed. For property, the 18-year cycle seems to be playing itself out. No policies expected for property investors, landlords, developers, whoever really related to property. Nothing's expected new to come out. So really, the point to think about is what you should do is just refresh your memory on the 18-year property cycle. What's going to happen? Go back to the shows we've done previously on that. And we'll link to a couple of those in the show notes, which this week is at thepropertyhub.net/election special. And remember that during that mid-cycle wobble, when that starts, or you could argue it's already started, the media will get hysterical. That's their job. So a little bit of bad news, they'll blow up to be terrible, terrible, terrible news. It's not. Remember, the media hasn't been so good at influencing the direction of our votes over the last few months, the paper media. It's interesting how social media has done a lot better, but that's a whole different discussion for the future. But generally, what should you do? Well, keep calm, carry on. I don't think there's much change, really, in terms of where we are in the cycle, what's going to happen. There may be a lot going on politically in the background, but as a property investor, it's not really much difference to a week or 2 weeks ago.
No, it's not. And I think there's a more kind of general point in here for everyone, which is that it's really helpful to be in a position where you're not that affected by what's going on politically. So we were talking about this before, like you can get emotionally affected by it and you can feel that certain things are unfair and you can get bothered by the way things are and the way things have gone. But if you can get yourself into a position where you're not that affected on a day-to-day level by what's going on politically, that is a great position to be in. So whoever's in government, maybe you'd rather they weren't, but whatever they do, it's not going to change your life that much. If you can be in that position, that's fantastic. If you're in a position where you really are affected by the decisions that politicians make, then that makes times like this, with all this uncertainty and all this manoeuvring, really scary. So that's obviously far, far easier said than done. But I think in general, it just shows the importance of doing what everyone listening to this is presumably trying to do, which is to take control of their own life and to set them up so that they are financially okay. We talk a lot about self-improvement and all that sort of thing. It's really just about taking control of your life as far as you possibly can. You can kind of treat it like it's a football match and cheer for your favourite team, but whoever wins, it doesn't really matter. Like I said, far easier said than done, But what we've been through in the last couple of years and are continuing to now, I think it really rams home the importance of trying to take control of your own destiny as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely. That is by far the biggest point from this. And also, as a side note, whoever is in charge in a couple of years' time, it doesn't really matter who leads us out of Brexit, because they'll all make the same mistake. They'll have to make Brexit work. If the economy's slightly struggling, they'll stimulate it far more than it needs to with QE and everything else, create a second property boom or economic boom in general, which really shouldn't have happened because we should have had just a soft recession. But any government in power can't be seen to let that happen. So we'll go into a massive, massive boom. And that's where the 18-year cycle plays out again. And further down the road, in 7-8 years' time, whenever it is, we'll have a far bigger crash. And whichever government gets in, they'll all do it. They all make the same mistakes. History shows us that. Whether it's Theresa May, Jeremy Corbyn, or someone else, they'll all do it. So, as Rob said, as property investors, we just need to get on with things. We may not be happy with results. We may be really passionate about a certain party. But ultimately, that ship sailed. Focus on you now. This is your time. Don't let the politicians ruin your life because you don't feel what's happened is fair or unjust. You can feel things are unfair and unjust, but ultimately, don't let it cost you personally. Get focused, refresh yourself with the 18-year property cycle, relook at your goals, and don't let external events take you off course from what's important to you.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a resource coming up that will help you perhaps refocus and to clear your mind from some of this stuff if you are bothered by what's going on. But first, another vote for the Property Podcast. I'm hoping it's a vote in our favour, Rob, in the form of an iTunes review.
It absolutely is. So thank you to Howes. I'm not sure, again, people are using their real names in iTunes, but we'll go with it. The podcast is full of free, helpful hints and tips, the fundamental resource for anybody wanting to invest in property. It's given me the confidence to start investing myself, and they also provide free resources such as books and forums. Can't recommend this podcast enough. And you know what? Since it's a short episode, Rob, we'll throw one more in. Lazarus says, practical pitches for the right level for beginners, but also doesn't treat you like an idiot. Really useful nuggets in every episode. Keep up the good work, guys.
Awesome stuff. Thank you to both of our reviewers this week. If you'd like to leave us a review of your own, please do. You'll get it read out on the show and you'll make us happy. What's not to like? So, resource of the week time. We've talked about meditation a fair bit on the podcast in the past over the years. Rob, you found a new tool related to that looks really helpful.
Yeah, maybe the reason we are so relaxed and laid back on this week's episode with everything going on is because of this tool. Yes, this tool is called Insight Timer. Don't let the name throw you because it's no timer, or not that I've noticed anyway at all. It's an app full of guided meditations and the vast majority are free. And what makes this really, really cool is that it sorts and filters for you and people leave reviews. So if you need a certain type of meditation, it will find it. If you want to find what the most popular meditations are out there, you can find it. It's just such a great resource. We live in such a wonderful time when these things exist. And this resource is absolutely brilliant. For me, it's one of the best meditation apps out there because I sometimes YouTube guided meditations and you can find the odd one, but it's hit and miss whether they're any good or not. This app sorts that out for you. So I've started using it already, found it very, very good. You can also get involved a little bit more of their community as well if that floats your boat. But as just a pure meditation tool, it's one of the best I've used, so check it out. It's available on Android and the Apple App Store. It's free, so you may as well check it out.
Very cool indeed. Okay, well, we will leave you to get your zen on, and we will be back next week with an episode about the London property market. Always a popular topic. What's happening to the London property market? Well, some pretty interesting stuff. We're going to be getting into that next Thursday.
We will. So we'll be back on Tuesday with Ask Rob and Rob. And as Rob said, we'll be back on Thursday with the Property Podcast. But until then, everyone, take care. And don't worry, be happy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to the Property Podcast. For show notes, all our past episodes, and to leave a review, go to thepropertyhub.net/podcast.